What's going on, world? Welcome back to Iron Sharpens. My name is Brad Marquis. We are sitting here with Mr. Andre Thomas.
What's up,
How you
Brad?
doing, sir? Now,
Good.
me and
How
Dre,
are
we
you?
go back, man. We've known each other for a while.
Oof, yes.
We've actually worked together on a lot of different initiatives. But for those of you who don't know, Iron Sharpens is a podcast that we've been doing where men helping men, man. So, a lot of this is geared towards helping young men, giving them the juice, giving them the game that we didn't have on the way up. And we had to learn the hard way. So if we can do what we can do to help you not have to learn the hard way, that's what we hear. We're not exclusive to the young men because the young ladies out there probably need the same game that we kick into the young men. So listen in, tune in. We're going to have something for y'all too. But right now, we're here with Dre. And I'm always in awe of the work that you do. Dre has been working with youth, since I can't remember.
Yeah, about 22 years now.
22 years,
Yeah,
right. And he's been involved in the city of Trenton, all of Mercer County. I'm sure you'll let him know everywhere else you've been.
Absolutely.
But, just in the community, helping out, getting these kids off the street or getting them into better opportunities so they can, just make something better out of themselves and grow beyond their circumstances.
Absolutely.
So Dre, introduce yourself,
Sure.
man, and tell everybody, a little bit about, what you're involved in right now.
Sure. Okay. Andre Thomas. I work primarily for IOS, which is a community development organization in Trenton. And I've been there for the past 22 years. I'm the senior training manager for the Energy and Environmental Training Center. But prior to starting at SEAT in 2009, prior to that, when I started at IOS, I was the operations manager for the IOS Youth Build program, which is still in existence, known as the IOS Youth Institute. And that program was really helping high school dropouts get on the right path and not just earn their diplomas, but also learn important life skills so that they can utilize that diploma as a tool for excellence and success. So it's really helping them transform their lives.
And what made you get involved? How did it all start?
Yes, well, it all started because I myself, growing up in the city of Trenton, got in trouble as a youngster. I was good in school, gifted and talented, right? But ninth grade is where I started to get involved with the streets, get involved with my friends, and it led me to incarceration in my early 20s. And I got sentenced to 15 years with a 5-year minimum mandatory, all for not nonviolent offenses, but distribution of drugs, and ended up doing 5 years and coming home in 1997. But I was, at that point, I was ready to go out here and really help my community. I had to reinvent myself because that time I was in prison, I should have been in college. So I had to really turn it around and figure out what I'm going to do with my life and how am I going to impact this world based on my experiences. So that's where I kind of came across IOS. I actually got discovered because I was out, I was actually working for a company, Mill Hill, first, doing peer education, that's where it kind of started. But then I ran across Marty Johnson at IOS. And what they were doing really fit what I wanted to do, helping those young people get on the right path. So, and once I met him and decided that's what I wanted to do, they kind of pulled me into their world, and I've been there ever since.
Well, what was it about the incarceration that said, okay, I want to make this change, I want to help my community?
Right.
What led you down that road?
Yeah, because when I was incarcerated, I realized, one, I messed up. How do I get back on track? But I also made observations. I started talking to inmates that couldn't make it. They were coming back, interviewing other lifers. I was around lifers, and a lot of it for them started when they were young. Making poor choices. So I reconnected with my dad, and he started sending me books, reading books by Naeem Akbar, Dr. Stephen Covey, So I'm reading it, and then light switches started going off, Brad, where I realized where I went wrong, and now I had to, create this path of redemption. And that's where it started. It was like I was even reading a lot of Les Brown. So as I was reading these books and light switches started coming on, I said, okay, what am I going to do in my life now that I'm at this place, this turning point? But I started counseling inmates from the stuff I was reading. I'm reading stuff by Naeem Akbar, and light switches are going off. So I started talking to guys, some of my I called them colleagues at the time, right? Some of the other inmates that were going through stuff. I'm actually practicing on them, and I realized, some important things that they kept coming back because of the things that they were doing when they went home. So just listening to them and talking to them, I realized some of the things I had to do coming home.
Right.
And I think that's where it happened for me. Came home, I was on a bracelet for a while. I started working in warehousing, became successful working in warehousing. And one thing I realized, I said, how can I go and help people unless I first got on the right path and made some good positions? So I kind of elevated in the warehouse where I became a traffic manager and, you know, going to work every day, working overtime, you know, and that's when I realized that, okay, I think I'm ready. And I started volunteering. I volunteered through Mill Hill. My dad was doing some work with Mill Hill. He was on their board, and we were involved with the Male Summit going into the schools. And that's when Stephen Rosen from Mill Hill discovered me initially, pulled me into his world. But then that's when I discovered IOS, and I realized that this is where I wanted to be. And they say purpose is not something you always decide. It's something you discover along the path. Right. And once I came across that, I realized that this is where I wanted to be.
How was your reception coming home? You know, people, you know, finding a job, getting a job, because you know it's not always. It's
tough, man.
Talk about that, man.
Yeah, it was tough because I ran into some roadblocks, you know, and I was persistent, resilient, but I did run it. I remember I was going to one job in particular. A lot of my boys that transitioned from the street was driving garbage trucks. So I feel like I'm gonna do that, you know. And I went down there, and the guy said, "You got to go get your CDLs." I went and got my CDL, came back, and he didn't really have nothing for me. So that was a defining moment. You know, what you're going to do. I decided to stay on the path. I didn't let that discourage me. It encouraged me. And I said, okay, if that door closes, it must be some other doors willing to open. So I stayed the course, and things started to unfold, you know, and that's where it happened for me.
No, that's a beautiful story, man. I you know, and I know that in between phase before things start happening is when dumb things start happening.
Right, when you're tested.
When you're tested,
yes.
Right? When it don't move as fast as you want to move, or when you know, and then you kind of trying to do better is hard. So let me go back to doing something I was.
That's that turning point. Yep, that's that crossroad.
That crossroad. So was it the support around you, mentorship around you? Was it just what was that thing that just made you keep pushing?
The support really helped. You know, I had my dad in my corner. I had a family that really believed in me, and they offered that support. But it really was internal,
right?
You know, because that path, you know, I was at that turning point where I could easily went left, but I decided to go right, and I realized that these challenges that I was faced with, I had to overcome, because if I'm going to help others, I had to teach them how to overcome. So I pushed through some of those challenges, man, and it started to produce fruit, because I became a traffic manager. And then, you know, when I decided to volunteer and the opportunity came, when I went back to the warehouse, the guy I was working with, and I told him that I'm gonna move on to work with kids in Trenton that were struggling. He almost was like, "What do you mean, Dre? You're gonna help kids in Trenton?" You know, because I was of value to him.
Right.
And that's when you realize when you're of value, when it's time for you to move on and go to your next level, your next part of your journey. People want to hold on to you because you're valuable to them.
Get the job done.
Right, exactly. So for me, it kind of affirmed that I was where I need to be.
Right.
Because he needed me to be there, and I left money on the table.
Right.
Because I was pretty much doing good in the warehouse world. I was in management. I had a flow, but this is where my heart was, helping folks that struggled in the same areas that I struggled, and I wanted to really give back in that way.
Got you. And thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
I know just a handful of people that you're consistently helping or have helped. You know, and it's been a beautiful to watch, beautiful to see.
Sure.
We live in Trenton. You know, to talk about your experience working with youth or just anyone who needs that type of support in Trenton, because a lot of what we find, as we mentioned, is a lot of these young people go back to what they know, or we can help them, but they still have to go live in those environments. They still have to go home to, a less than ideal situation that, kind of warps their mind to like, okay, he tell me all this and all this great, great things, and I can do this and I can be this, but I can't concentrate on getting this A in school if I got to worry about how I'm going to eat tonight.
Absolutely.
Or where I'm going to sleep tonight.
Right.
So
absolutely.
How do we combat that? How do we help that?
And that's an interesting point, man, and it's a valid point. In order to influence someone, you have to first come where they are. You know, and I like to use the analogy of the giraffe and the turtle. You know, they both are in different positions, right? And it's not that anything is wrong with the turtle. He's just operating from the level he's on. And my goal is to come where they are and understand why they are. You know, and you're right. Some of them grew up in fragmented situations where the environment wasn't conducive for elevation. So we start to fill in those gaps, and that's what I did at Youth Build at IOS. A lot of these young people that I came across were headed on the same path I was headed in. So we had to, you know, begin to give them tools and also teach them how to overcome the environment by helping them to create their own environment. And that's a challenge because it takes a willing participant and it takes a patient farmer. Like my dad was for me. I was like that bamboo seed that was a hard seed to crack. But like a bamboo seed, they said when, you know, it almost takes 5 years to crack. But it takes a constant watering that seed and understand that it's, even though you don't see the results right away, it's still germinating under that ground. You know, that seed represents being in those dark moments that we all, you know, are in our lives, but we realize that we're not buried, we just planted. And a lot of times people are planted in their circumstance, in their situation, and they need this guidance to get their way out. Because once they overcome their environment, like in the dirt, eventually they become to rise above the things that once kept them trapped in. And sometimes it can be family, it can be different, a lot of different things that play into that. Right. And you know, you as a patient gardener, like my dad was for me, I had to be patient with them and understand that it's going to take some time. It's going to take some sacrifice and developing some disciplines. Right. I realized, Brad, that when I came home out of prison, I realized that people are in many prisons, proverbial prisons. Yeah. And it's not just a physical; it's the proverbial prison, which is almost more devastating than the one up here, than the physical prison. The one up here. Yes, because prisons of poverty, prisons of bad habits, prisons of your environment. Right. All of these things were substantial, and it takes someone with a special set of skills to engage these groups that are struggling. Right, right. Because you got to change their mind. Change the mindset,
you got to get them to see something different in the same thing.
Absolutely.
Like it's the same thing. Right. You just got to look at it differently. That's right. Absolutely. And I'm telling you, it takes a brilliant person or imaginative person, patient person to get these youth to see something different in their struggle. Right. You gotta help them get some certainty in this uncertain world. Right. Right.
Which is tough.
Speaking of that, so talk to us about IOS and Youth Build and those types of structures that help these youth, move into a different world.
Well, man, at IOS right now, we got some exciting things going on at IOS, which I'm so happy about. You know, being in this position what I'm in with IOS.
Well, what is IOS?
IOS is a community development organization in Trenton, New Jersey, and it's been in Trenton, New Jersey since 1981. Okay. I always say 40 years, but we surpassed 40 years, so I just go 1981, and we've been in Trenton since 1981. It started out as a gardening program, and now it's morphed into, we have the Social Profit Center in Mill 1, which has just been birthed a couple years ago. It took a long time to develop that, but we still have an office on 33 Tucker Street and 10 Wood. Where I am at the Center for Energy and Environmental Training, we also share space with community development and planning. And what's fascinating right now, Brad, what we're going through right now, in my department, we have funding through the governor's office called this bridge funding. Okay. And the bridge funding is really helping relieve barriers, right? Driver's license restoration, which is, I know for returning citizens, that's a major barrier. Not even returning citizen, people, period. So we're able to relieve that barrier and also offer other support services that will help them be in a good position. We also have the Financial Opportunity Center that's under Community Development and Planning, and they have programs to really help guys that come out, get an intake, get some job coaching, get some financial coaching, set some financial goals, and all of these things will help them not just get a job, but also keep a job. Because I realized from my coming home from incarceration, I realized me getting a job was one piece, but then I had to man, I had to learn how to develop healthy relationships
Right.
and deal with that part of
Right.
it.
Right.
Self-care,
Right.
financial stuff.
Right.
See, all of that stuff I had to learn through trial and error with
Right.
that stuff.
Right.
You know, getting
Right.
a job was one thing, but
Right.
now that part I had to make some mistakes.
Right.
But in making those mistakes, I realized that that's part of the teaching. Because when you make mistakes and you overcome, you become a teacher now. You can teach folks how not to make that mistake, because
Right.
you know, and that's where it happens. So these support services are right on time because the city needs it. And our work in energy and environmental, we have a lead program to end childhood lead poisoning, where I train contractors to go into homes. We also have a weatherization program that supports New Jersey's New Jersey's carbon footprint. So New Jersey is moving towards electrification, but we have to really work on the existing homes that we have that are dilapidated, make it healthy, and then make it energy efficient.
Right.
So that also creates job opportunities.
Right.
So, but the job opportunities are not. It won't happen if the folks haven't been made whole. So we have a holistic approach for the house. Now we're having a holistic approach for the people.
For the
the people, which
Right.
I'm excited about.
Right.
I just recently got approved to do training through the city of Trenton through their returning citizens program.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And now I get to actually work firsthand with returning citizens. And IOS has given me the platform to do it at their facilities and connect these guys to all of these services.
So what's that look like? Where's that going to be at?
Yes.
Like, talk about that.
Right. So we're going to be doing the training for returning citizens in November. I just got off the phone with the city of Trenton. We were looking to schedule it second Saturday of November.
Okay.
And we're going to be doing it every Saturday. I think we're going to be doing 2 Saturdays a month.
Okay.
And we're going to not only give them soft skills training, because that's another thing that I encountered through my transition was, learning how to get along with supervisors, learning how to manage that relationship, getting along with coworkers, managing stress, conflict resolution, all of these things that when you come home, and I always tell the guys coming home, ordinary is not acceptable for a returning citizen. You have to, you got to bring your A game. So I want to equip these guys, and then equipping them with those skills, but then connecting them to those support services, the job coaching, the financial goals. I think if you give a guy some financial goals, help him get out of debt and all of that stuff, first time home buyers program, all of these things will help support this person getting a job, keeping a job, and also managing their money.
Right.
All of those things are important. So I'm really excited about that.
All right. And how can they find out about the program? Where can is there a phone number?
You can email me at athomas@ios.org, or you can call me at 609-672-2311. We're going to be putting out a flyer.
Okay.
To these networks, and I have a whole bunch of networks in the re-entry world from my work, doing this work over the years. So I'm going to be plugging out, but we're going to be putting out a flyer. The city of Trenton is going to be putting out a flyer as well, advertising this work.
Okay.
Because we want to get these guys that are returning citizens and are struggling to come get this training and get connected to these resources.
Gotcha. Father Center.
Yes.
Are you still working over there?
Yes.
What's your work? I'm telling this man he's doing. He's on a mission.
Yes.
To help get folks back on the right way.
Yes, because I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do work in many different forums, and so we got the re-entry is my intervention. Guys that made the mistakes. Now we're gonna show you how to get back on track. It's very possible, because if I did it, you can do it. Type of thing. So we have that set, but we wanted to also do some prevention, right? As I mentioned earlier, 9th grade is where it started happening for me.
Right.
When I started going off track. Right. So we started this program, Healthy Relationship, Healthy Choices, through the Father Center, and we've been doing this program since 2017. And they enter in through the 9th grade academy, and we work with them all through high school and beyond. Right now we have students that graduated college. We got students that graduate high school looking to go right into the workforce, and we assist them through these networks. I already connected guys to the Financial Opportunity Center because I know they're going to give them those support services.
Right.
So we really mentor these guys through, because it's tough being a kid in Trenton. It's tough being a young person. You mentioned earlier the environments, and you could be a good kid, but fall between the cracks, and then fall into that poverty trap, underemployment trap. So I want to give these guys some of the kids that are not bad kids, good kids get good grades,
Distracted.
and we want to distracted, focusing on giving them the tools for success too, because oftentimes the kids that are not getting in trouble or assume that they're good. Mm-hmm. They just assume that they're okay because they're focusing on the kids that are trouble.
Look at me, kids.
The ones that need a lot of attention.
Right.
And these kids often don't get a lot of attention because people assume that they're good.
Right.
That was me when I was younger.
Gotcha.
I was assumed that I was good because, our pop was in my life. He provided. My mom's was in my life. She was a single mom, but she was in my life. And I had a big family, but they didn't know that there was a lot of underlying things pulling at me. Mm-hmm. So knowing that going in, we want to impact these ninth graders at young ages, at that age group, and then work with them all through high school. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to mention too, we just started an in-school program too, Brad, where now we do the after-school program at the Father Center, but now we have a program through the assistance of Principal Wood and Dr. Martin, where we're actually in the school now.
I love it.
I have Tyrone Miller. He's one of our facilitators. He goes into the school, and he's working with these guys, really trying to get them on the right path.
I love it. Mm-hmm. And you got to meet them where they at.
Meet them where they at. Absolutely.
And you know what they should be in school.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
And then you can get them where they at. Give them the tools right then and there.
Absolutely.
So what are the major obstacles that you're seeing in trying to connect to the youth in Trenton?
Well, a lot of times, man, getting their full cooperation. Oftentimes, ninth graders, they're not really sure what they need and what they want. So you almost have to kind of create some sort of a carrot to pull them in because they don't know what they want. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the parents are busy and they can't force these kids to take programs. So it's that really trying to get them to understand that they need to be in this place. And so right now we recruit up to 15 boys.
Okay.
But oftentimes, they have to be present, and it's tough recruiting for that program because, again, the reward is not immediate.
Gotcha.
So it's hard to really get them to see the importance of it, especially a ninth grader. What's my future? I'm not really thinking too far ahead.
Yeah, you're chasing girls in video games.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And sports.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And it's tough really getting them to get in. But the ones that we are able to attract, we see differences made. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To the job with IELTS, we go through the job training, we go through the job placements, and we didn't talk about the GED.
Right.
The opportunities for youth and folks coming home to actually get their GED to get started on this path.
Absolutely. So IELTS, in addition to the Financial Opportunity Center, IELTS also have the IYI, IELTS Youth Institute, where you can get your GED. Now that's for ages 16 to 24.
Okay.
For that. But you go there to get your GED. Matter of fact, I'm talking to the new cohort tomorrow. So every new cohort, I get a chance to talk to them just to help them understand that it's not just about the GED. It's more about transformation. And along the way, you'll also receive your GED. Now, that GED becomes a tool that you can use. But the real thing that drives it is your mission, your purpose, your life. What are you trying to do? What's your why?
Right.
And connect them to these other resources as well. So IELTS, in addition to the Financial Opportunity Center, they have funding to help 16 to 24-year-olds get up to $9,600 for school, for any training,
So
9,600 for any type of training. And so I told Taekwon, I hooked them into that resource. So it's about resources. It's about knowing about the
people,
resources.
Networking.
So I tell the folks, I said, my resources become your resources.
Right.
So it's important to make the connection. And I'll also share that with my young people. Ninth grade is hard to get them to understand the value in that. Mm-hmm. So oftentimes I have to bring back some of the guys that we're still engaging, could really say, look, man, this is real. You need to stay connected. But again, it's just convincing them the importance of it.
Cool beans, man. No, that's a. So talk to us about. I heard a saying the other day. And don't get it twisted on these numbers, but it's something crazy like this. They say, when you're teaching a child something, if you're kind of just teaching it to them, you're drilling it to them, it may take 10, 20, 30,000 repetitions before they click.
Sure.
But if you put it in a game, if you make it fun, 10 to 20 times before it'll sink in.
That's right.
When you make the activity fun, a learning activity, make it fun. So over at Healthy Relationships, healthy relationships, healthy choices.
Right.
So Talk about your programming. Talk about what that looks like.
So a lot of it is, activity based. We try to get them through activities, but the activities are like, I'm gonna just give an example of broken squares. To really get them to critical thinking, team building. All of these things are preparing them for future workforce opportunities, and that's what we try to really set the stage for. Everything that we teach them, different activities that bring about those the things that we're trying to look at, or at least see how they work together. If they can critically think through some of these activities, it really helps me feel where they are, see where they are. But you're right, you have to have things to engage them. And it's you got to have activity based. Matter of fact, even my workforce development curriculum for the returning citizens is all activity based. It's activity based things to really have these activities that conveys a message, a much deeper message, and a lot of these activities also creates the dialogue that we want to have with these young people and beyond, even adults, to really look at what's your why? How did you get to this particular point? What were some of the challenges? And talking through that, they'll see that it wasn't really about the activity. It was really about the individual and how they work well together at solving problems. Because how life is. Life is definitely, no matter what your goals and dreams are, life has a way of challenging you. And making sure that you are ready to think critically and solve some of these problems. So we really start to do these activities to prepare them for some of life challenges.
Right. I wish a lot of youth would just, I was the same way. You try and run from your challenges. You try and run away from, obstacles when we should be running towards those obstacles because you can't avoid them.
Can't avoid them.
And the more you avoid them, the more they pile up. So if you start knocking them out or figuring out how to knock those out or how to tackle those things, you'll go farther faster. But as long as you run from, they ain't leaving.
They're not leaving.
Your bills ain't going away. They're just getting higher.
and also like talking to these guys about how they manage themselves.
Yeah.
Self-management.
Yeah.
You talked about responsibility earlier. We were going through that stuff. Self-management. What is, responsibility, the ability to respond to whatever life throws at you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you can't predict those things.
But it's so hard because again, as we stated, this might be generational. What they're dealing with, was grandmom, was grandpa, was your dad, is that, so they're looking around when they go home for that support that they get at the program or at school, and they're not finding it. They're looking at somebody to do homework with them at home. There ain't nobody at home to do homework with them.
It's tough, man.
And it's even beyond that. Like, we know plenty of kids who, like I said, looking for places to sleep.
That's right.
Looking for security, looking to be safe.
Yeah.
How you gonna tell this kid to get an A in school
when he doesn't have a safe environment?
Absolutely. He or she doesn't have a safe environment.
And even to think about lead. Over the years doing lead work, I realized that a lot of kids in New Jersey, the numbers are astronomical with children that have been affected by lead poisoning, and that impacts their behavior. That impacts so many different hidden. It has so many hidden symptoms that are connected to other things. So a lot of times we get caught into treating these kids' symptoms without them getting lead tested. We don't even know if they're operating on their own accord. So that's another challenge too. To think about. You got all these different factors that play into who they are, and that's the challenge that we have. How do we engage them so that they are successful? Because at the end of the day, the goal is to become independent, to become an earner, and to become independent of their parents. And that's the task.
Right.
That's the task. Right. The goal is to work towards that independence, but it's easy. It's not easier said than done because you got to put the work in. You need them to be committed. Right.
It was the model that I've worked in a lot of youth programs. I've worked in the group homes. I was in Jamesburg. I was a PO at Jamesburg.
Right.
So I was there.
Right.
And the one thing that I learned is, like I said, when you send these kids back home, not having that support, is the reason they come back to the. They came back to Jamesburg during the wintertime intentionally.
That's right.
Because they knew they was going to get food and they were going to have a place to sleep during the winter.
That's a sad reality.
That's
but
a sad reality, and they knew they was going to get their education there. And so that was, for whatever that was, because their records would get lost when they transferred back, and all, it was just a sad situation to see. But man, I forgot the question I was going to go with, but dealing with a lot of these youth in the city and like what types of system, for instance, all right, here's where I was going with it. Like I see LeBron James, and LeBron James has set up his school in Akron, Ohio, and his school only takes the worst of the worst kids who, that's why LeBron's school, this, that, or other, his numbers are down, or these kids aren't scoring high on these tests, but he's only taking the kids who can't, who are not successful.
Right.
But he didn't stop there.
Right.
He noticed, okay, again, like I just said, these kids' parents. So he said, okay, because if your kid's in my school, not only are they gonna, if they graduate, they're gonna get a free scholarship to go to Kent State, but I'm gonna build a job training center, and I'm gonna build housing for these kids' parents.
Right.
So these kids' parents can get on their, I can't send these kids back to that environment. I gotta give your kid, your parents' housing may not be good, so I'm gonna provide free housing for your parents to get, and education, GED, job training. I'm gonna give them all the tools they need for free.
Right.
As long as you're enrolled in my school.
And that is that's very profound, and it's similar to what we have going on even at the Father Center in the Isles. And that's one thing. When we recruit kids, when I recruit students, I'm already thinking about their families. So one thing that I do with the youth in the Healthy Relationship, Healthy Choices is I bring them to Isles as a field trip, and I take them through many measures that I go through with some of the energy and environmental specialists. These are building analysts. This is a formidable pathway if they want to get into it. So one, it exposes them to possibilities for themselves, and the connection to get into this field. So we go through the measures in my training center to really see what they're about. But this is the opportunity I talk about. Programs for their families.
Right.
The Father Center, when we're dealing with the kid, we really want to also engage the family. So if the kid's family has needs, they got support service at the Father Center and Isles for all of the families. And so they have, at the Father Center you can come get a suit, for an interview. Now, once a kid is enrolled in our program, their families have access to these services.
Right. Okay.
So you're right. You want to offer the services because we know, even for lead, if the family's living in a situation where they need to get their homes treated and tested for lead and weatherized, they have access to these services. So we really try to use this opportunity for kids to take things home for the parents, even the gardening program. So those are the things that really help support the family so that the kids can also get that support. So it may not be in the way that because LeBron got the funding to do it, but we do have it in our own way. We do have programs that it's not just about the youth. This program is good for families. So let's just say, for instance, a local contractor happens to have a kid that goes to 9th grade academy. Connect with me, get some training. And in our network at Isles, we have a network of agencies just like Isles all throughout the state. Right. So that means, and these are cities that have been identified in New Jersey that have big lead issues. So we have La Casa in Newark, we have Paco in Jersey City, just to name a few. But they're a network that to really expand our reach, and they're doing the same thing we're doing. And the beauty of it is, we recruit contractors. We put out an RFQ for contractors. So if you are a contractor in the local area and beyond in New Jersey, we put out an RFQ, and that's a request for qualifications, and they can be a contractor in this network, and they don't have to compete for the work, because in ending childhood lead poisoning, it's hard to push it in the private world because you're competing with contractors that may not be compliant. So when you put them in a network where everybody's compliant, right, they do a round robin, so you don't have to compete. It's next one up. So you're able to engage contractors, you're able to engage roofers, asbestos contractors, all to make the house whole, because the house impacts the environment. And if our babies are growing up in this environment that's infested with rodents, lead burden, asthma triggers, how can you live in that and then go out and be successful in school?
Yeah, you set them up for the woo, and then you know when they don't achieve, and you say, "See, I told you they're not, this, that, or the other."
Yeah, I mean, the living environment is so important, and that's sometimes overlooked and not counted as an issue.
The pandemic, when everything shut down and all the kids had to do remote learning, half the city ain't have Wi-Fi.
That's right. Yeah.
How can you do remote learning and the homes don't even have Wi-Fi?
It's crippling.
You know, and you think we take that for granted. Like
Yes.
every house got Wi-Fi,
Absolutely.
everybody got high speed, everybody got this, that, and the other. But we learned during the pandemic that you know, they call it a digital desert or so. I forget, it's something
Yeah.
desert along those lines.
Yes, it's like the food desert.
It's like the food desert.
Right,
It's
absolutely.
exactly like the food desert, but just, you know, in a digital Wi-Fi kind of way, where, you know, homes, city blocks, city just does not have Wi-Fi.
Not have Wi-Fi. You know, my dad and I were at an event this weekend at Mill One, at Isles Mill One, and it was really, it was a platform for Kinder Smile.
Okay.
Who is a dental, she's a local nonprofit dentist, now in Trenton and Newark, but it was so fascinating seeing what they're doing. Dr. Nicole with Kinder Smile, and I'm giving them a plug because it's so important. I'm going to connect her to Dr. Martin at the 9th Grade Academy because underserved communities don't get dental work. And dental work is so important when it comes to the health.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, so important.
It's downtown, right?
It's downtown,
Yeah.
man, and she's a nonprofit, and she gets funding to really help serve underserved communities. So I'm going to be connecting Kinder Smile because when I went to this event, they showed a video. Man, I'm like, wow, you know, that's just another thing that can work against.
Yeah.
Our babies.
Yeah.
We talk about the health of the mouth.
Yeah.
And you're talking about pests, lead. I mean, you got all of these things working against them.
Yeah.
And then they have to go out here and compete in the world.
Deion say you look good, you play good.
That's right.
You play good, they pay good.
That's right.
But
So we gotta. If you don't have those things, man, you know it is certainly a deficiency that you're coming with, and we have to really fill in these gaps and expose them to these services because I really believe that when you start to fix these things, your finances, the dental work, your finances, the house is healthy, the home is healthy, you know, now that's a recipe for success.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I think your dad said this to me. I remember sitting on the in his garden, and he mentioned, you know, the difference in, you know, the 50s and 60s versus now. You know, and he was like, he identified when they moved the jobs out of the city and they moved the jobs to the suburbs.
That's right.
He's like, well, you know, back in the day, everybody had a job. You know, you might not have been depending on what you was making,
right?
But people felt good about themselves because they had income.
That's right.
And they knew they was getting up and they was going to they was getting up and they were going to work. They had income. They could take care of their families. And then they moved all the jobs out to the suburbs, and we couldn't get to those jobs and get to the suburbs. And then we get the poverty levels. Concentrated poverty came in, and then you get more crime. You get more of the nonsense that happened because now people's insecurities and their feeling of you know, self-worth and things of that nature are out the door because now they can't provide.
If people feel like they don't fit in, they become misfits. They don't feel like they fit in, they just become it. Like, you know, they don't feel like they have any connection to this thing called hope, man. And we have to give them hope, and we have to create these things. And that's why I'm really happy with the funding that Isles is getting to really help the individuals.
Right.
Get on this path. So, you know, so now we're starting with them young, and hopefully the goal is to get them ready. So by the time they're ready, we can plug them into these programs that could really help them, you know, become whole.
Let's talk about this city, man. Let's talk about this city of Trenton. If you could fix it.
Right.
I know it's a broad question.
Woof.
I know it's a broad question. Let's just give me your top 3 things you would do to fix it.
Well, I know one of the dilemmas is, and you mentioned it, you know, when white flight hit, that was where it started. You know, when I say started, it's very systemic because of that. And I remember Mayor Palmer at the time, he was my old baseball coach, so we would talk. And I remember, you know, when I was at Isles and Mayor Palmer, he was the mayor, we would talk about some of the challenges of Trenton. You know, and when I learned about it, it made sense. When you see where it sits, not close enough to Philly like Camden, not close enough to New York like Newark. You're in the middle, and then you're surrounded around these counties that are independent of Trenton.
Right.
So if you ask me, what could we do? You know, I think what Trenton needs is economic reform, and the only way to do that is businesses coming in,
Right.
setting up, because that creates opportunities. And bring it back to the old way when the 50s and 60s. When I grew up in the 70s, you're right, my dad was right. I remember seeing downtown flourishing.
Right.
You know, when downtown is flourishing, you know, the people you go to downtown North. You
It
know,
was good
North,
in the 80s.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was good in the 80s, and crack hit. And it decimated it. You know, so white flight on top of crack era decimated Trenton, and we're still recovering from that decimation. Incarceration, over incarceration, all of those things. So now this is the reminiscence, because you start, the houses are starting to decay. It's because of what was done.
Right.
The number
and we haven't come back.
We haven't come back.
And when I say we, I'm talking about, you know, the educated, the folks who grew up in Trenton, who made it out, who are successful. We left.
Yeah.
And a lot of us haven't come back to reinvest into the city.
Yes.
You know, and part of that is, like you said, there's not a lot of jobs, there's not a lot of opportunities. You know, and if you know, if my job is up the road, then I'm gonna live up the road.
That's right.
You know,
you're going where you want to is. Right.
Where
And if you're thinking about it, when you talk about a school system that's challenging, right?
Right.
People usually move to cities because of a good school system.
Yeah.
So if the school system is challenged, who's coming in?
Who's coming in?
People going out but not coming in. So
Right.
that concentrated poverty continues.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle, and you really, you know, and that's why the work that I was doing is so important, and partnering with other nonprofits, you know, to really try to fill in some of these gaps. But the issues are so systemic.
Right.
It's hard to see quick results, especially when the companies are not coming. You know, Camden, you know, get a lot of attention. North get a lot of attention. You know, and that means a lot. And I learned this in the grant world. It really means a lot. Trenton does have some, you know, credibility because it's the capital, so it got to get some attention. But it's just concentrated, man. It's never recovered from white flight and the crack era.
Right. You know, it's funny. You know, I don't live in Trenton anymore, but. Remember I had that white Stinger? I had that white Stinger, and I remember I went to get insurance on that Stinger, and because of my address, I was living in Trenton, my insurance was over $400.
Yeah.
Just because of where I lived at.
That's right.
I moved up the road, it went down to like $150.
Makes a sense. It makes a lot of sense.
But,
this is what we're dealing with.
But I'm like, wait a minute. $400 for insurance on it. I'm not even paying that. That's exactly what my note was in that park. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. And
you know, but again, those are things that motivate people to move out. Because you got to pay for
cost of living.
Cost of living. Yeah, right.
Taxes are higher because you got a lot of people that can't pay, so the that can pay a lot.
Pay a lot. Yeah.
And it's just tough when you start to do those numbers and I know, you know, any mayor that goes in there, because this is, you know, Mayor Palmer gave me this. He was like, you know, I didn't realize the dilemma that a mayor has, and it reminds me when I watched an episode on The Wire, and that city council guy came in gung ho about it, and he challenged the incumbent mayor, and he was like, he was on council giving him hell, right? He was just like, you don't know what you're doing, until he had the lane. He became the mayor, and then when they gave him the school budget, the deficit. It was a game because he's made all these promises to law enforcement. You know, this is new day, till he got that deficit, till he got that budget, and he only could do what the budget allowed him to do. And Trenton has that dilemma. I think any mayor that takes it on, you know, it's the dilemma of coming over concentrated poverty when companies want to be on the outer skirts, so you don't have the tax base, you know, so they'll operate in Young, they'll operate in Long, but they're not coming to Trenton. They come and they want to operate for next to nothing. So without that money, and you know, it just gives a problem for any mayor to make real formidable changes because of you working against that.
They got to come off that land too. They own a lot of the real estate in there, so the city has to come off some of that land and allow some of these companies to come in here and do it.
That's another thing too. The state is operating because all of that state area was all residential.
Got you.
Was all residential.
Still is. A lot of
still is. It's state.
But it's not a lot of commercial real estate where people can build.
Right, and then you got the brownfields that one of my colleagues, Elise Pibnick from IOS, you know, we used to do a lot of brownfield research. So a lot of times companies coming in, they got to do that. So development becomes a challenge, and then like, you know, the state has all of that real estate. And this is something Mayor Palmer was telling me at the time. Mayor Palmer, he was saying the real estate, state, has all the real estate and it's not as much residential. So when you think about economic, you need a tax base, and the state operates for nothing. I mean, they do grants and stuff, but they, so that's a lot of real estate that could be residential.
Right. And when folks are not living in the city, they're working in them. Tax dollars are not circulating through the city.
You notice at 5 o'clock, it's hard to get out because it is like a mass exodus getting out. So that's all resources and money going over the bridge. So as a mayor, that's important because that's a tax base. And see, sometimes it's easy to criticize the leadership when you don't understand the dilemma. They said, as heavy as that head that wears the crown.
Yes.
Until you understand that dilemma, and I didn't understand till Mayor Palmer told me. Mayor Palmer at that time, I said, wow, I didn't even consider that because I used to go to some of the town hall and they would be killing, and it's like, it's like you don't understand the budget till you have the budget in your hands.
They don't show you the budget till you get the job.
Like on the wire, you say, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing here? So you were dealing with all of that. So you're dealing with so when I'm dealing with these kids and I see these kids are a result of a lot of factors. They are the ones that are left. And I was talking to a guy, he looked at the housing, he was like, the housing is so dilapidated. He was like, where's the future housing for these kids? So we have a lot of work to do now. Now, this is the thing.
Give me hope.
Yeah, this is the hope. This is the hope. So when I'm talking about guys coming out of the system looking for work, look, plumbers wake up looking for plumbing leaks, right? So we have these houses. So look, I'm saying, bruh, when I came home, I had to figure out what lane to get in. So you have to look at the problems and become the part of the solution. Right. It's a lot of work to be done. Right. Why not put these guys to work? Get them lead certified, get them connect them with contractors, and do the work in their community. So there is opportunity. There is hope. We just have to maximize it. We got to put our networks together and build this net. And this is it's a slow process. Success doesn't happen overnight, but I think we can start making integral changes with the individuals, with the housing. I think we're on the right track. We got the support of the governor. Governor Murphy has, with ending loud childhood lead poisoning, the electrification, and all of these things. And
they're working on that Wi-Fi problem too.
Yeah, and the bridge money is coming to really help. So, the governor's first wife came to Isles, and then Sean Jackson and I went to Newark. And what I like about it is they are making a concerted effort to put funding together to really help these vulnerable communities. And I do appreciate that. And so all we have to do is make good of it. We have to get folks that are here, because if they're putting the money out now we have to get with the people, because sometimes when people are so disenfranchised, they almost can't even see the help.
That is,
They almost can't really see what's there because they
can't.
They don't.
We deal with it every day. We see it every single day, from the kids to the grandparents we see it every single day.
So it's like that turtle. Yeah. And that giraffe. The giraffe has a better viewpoint because he's in a better position to see the bigger picture. Where that turtle can only see, and he's limited. He's limited because he can't see the bigger picture. And sometimes when you are in that element and you're in the struggle, it's hard to see the hope.
Yeah, and then the crazy part is that, as you say that, the giraffe needs a turtle, and the turtle needs a giraffe. Absolutely. Because the giraffe can't make good decisions if he's not getting the viewpoint of the turtle.
That's right.
And the turtle can't understand what the giraffe moves the giraffe making if he can't, if they can't connect on what the bigger picture is.
And that's great, true, Brad. So that makes a good point, because, and I always say this when I'm teaching that lesson, it's like, it's not anything wrong with the turtle. He's just operating from the level he's on.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with him. And that has purpose too.
It has purpose and it adds value.
That's right.
I worked at welfare, McBoss, and I was a caseworker. So I had turtle level view.
Right.
But my view was on boots, on the ground. I understood the needs of the people I was dealing with.
That's right.
But if you're making policies as on the giraffe level, but you're not consulting the turtle,
that's right.
Your policies might be off for what's actually needed in the field. Yes. And that's what I found out a lot. People get disconnected from the turtle level view, and they start making policies that truly don't move the needle on the ground. So
That's
if it don't move the needle on the ground, it's not working its way up, and it's not actually improving anything.
That's right.
You're just it just becomes cyclical, and just keep things are moving, but they're not growing. They're not improving.
And you know, it's funny you mention that because you know everybody has a next level, right? And so I like being on the ground, working with the guys, rolling my sleeves up and doing that work. But now I will say this because I gotta give a shout out to Owls because of it. They always push me in those areas of uncomfort for me, areas that I'm not comfortable with. So I have to often go into these policy rooms, you know, and you know, like folks like from New Jersey Environment, Doug O'Malley, you know, they're always pulling me in because they want to hear from somebody on the ground, and they always are engaging me. And I wasn't always comfortable in those rooms, but I realized it's necessary. So I had to, and this is what I train these guys on. I said, sometimes you have to be comfortable with discomfort. Because there's a purpose for that. So I had to get over my fears, get over my insecurities in these circles, right? Because I'm with these, you know, all
these big wigs and all that.
and I'm like, you know, but and they always tell me, you know, you belong in these rooms, and that's exactly right.
You belong in it.
That's right. And if I'm in, I belong in it. I had to that was a personal thing I had to overcome because of my discomfort. But I realized it's important. And sitting in these policy rooms, it really helped me to see, one, their passion and energy. Like these environmental folk, man, they really
they go hard.
They go hard, bro. You know, Doug O'Malley, these guys go hard. They really put pressure on the governor to fight for things that vulnerable people don't know about or don't fight for. They really, man, I'm telling you, I have so much respect for the folks that I know I've worked with on a policy level because of their energy. They really fight. They're on these different platforms fighting for the people that can't fight for themselves. And I remember on, it was on A Few Good Men. And at the end, he said, well, I thought we can go back. He said, no, we didn't fight for Santiago. We should have fought for him because he couldn't fight for himself. And that was the man that sat with me. So these people, these folks on that policy level, they fight for stuff that people don't even realize that they're fighting for. And I got mad respect for them. They always call me to the table because they say, Andre, we got to hear from you.
We got to make sure they fighting for the right things.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the thing.
Don't give me a park when I need a job.
Right, that's right, that's right. And so, yeah, we got to make sure we fight for the right things. But a lot of those fights that I'm on is ending childhood lead poisoning, electrification because of all the health ramifications. And in these fights, like for instance, you know, even in the weatherization world, you know, some of the companies that do the weatherization retrofits were walking away from houses that had these issues. So we fought on a policy level to say we can't walk away because our mission is fostering self-reliant families and healthy, sustainable communities. And Environment New Jersey, they have the same type of mission. So it's like, no, if these houses are right, then we got to fight for funding to make them right. And so we have funding. What is it? The Healthy Homes Improvement Grant, something along those lines. And it was for a home, when they come across a home that they can't weatherize because of the conditions, we have funds now. And it's limited funding. We need more funding because a lot of the houses have these issues. They can't get retrofitted until it's made healthier. So we had to get money, and we fought for money. Now we have funding to help these houses get right so that we could weatherize it. So yeah, these guys, you know, you get the right group fighting for the right reasons, they're fighting that fight, man. I have privy to be in those rooms.
My question to you is, how's the head that's wearing the crown?
Woo, man, you talk about me?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, it is. You have to have a balance. Sometimes I'm tired, I work hard, but you know, I got a beautiful wife at home that you know, that.
Shout out to support.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I got kids, and my daughter just graduated college.
Congratulations.
Yeah, she just started at DCA today.
Congratulations.
You know, and so yeah, I gotta make sure that my family's good. But yeah, sometimes it wears me down, man. But I feel like
what support do you need?
With support,
like, you know, put a name on it, man. What do you need to do the work that you're doing? Like, what are you looking for? What type of, you know, funding, people? Like, put it out there.
Well, yeah. So I mean, funding is always necessary, and like I said, right now we're in a good position. I'm really fortunate to be in this position with IOS, with all of the different funding they have, but we're always looking for funding to support healthy relationship, healthy choices, because that program is sort of a youth program where we don't want to go after federal or state money where they're going to kind of handcuff you to do right, box you in. We like that independent money where they lead us to do what we need to do, and they trust in your mission.
I say the state money, federal money, it's a page, it's $1 a page.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my goodness, so funding to help support healthy relationships, healthy choice is always good, because that program there, not only does it support the current ninth graders, but it's also support the alumni, and we pay attention to the alumni too, because they really need the supports as well.
So how do you manage all the different hats that you wear, man? What system are you putting in place or need to put in place to manage all the hats that you're wearing right now?
Well, now right now I need to start training trainers. I need to expand my reach, because I can't do it all. So I'm always looking, we got Tyrone Miller on our team. He does the in-school. We're always looking, as I'm doing this re-entry training, I'm going to be pulling in folks to come and engage that population. So now for me, it's time to step it up to more of a start to really expand my reach and start training trainers so that they can help carry this load, because it becomes a load, man. But like you mentioned, now just finding good people that we can rely on to do that work. So I'm excited about Tyrone Miller. He's a good guy. He does a lot of work in his area, and he's a good facilitator. But I do have a few trainers set up to help me with this reentry piece, but it's always good adding people
now you have opportunity for expansion. So when you bring people in,
that's right.
They can see how they can grow within the organization or grow within the work that you're giving them right now.
Absolutely.
Which hopefully encourages them to stick a little tighter with the path,
right?
Because now they can say, "Oh, this ain't a one-off," and then they ain't gonna be able to find me nothing.
Right,
no,
absolutely.
I can actually see myself building here.
That's right.
And then they'll be training trainers.
Absolutely, and that's how you start to grow. And that right now, I'll be looking for a field tech. A field technician. So on IOS.org, we are looking for folks. So go on our website at www.ios.org and look isles.org and look for the areas that they're hiring in. But you go on the website and it does show different job descriptions and different things that they're hiring for. I know they're hiring in various departments. So please check out the website, and also go on our Father Center website to look at how you can support healthy relationship, healthy choices, and also Trenton Circuit Squad, my Trenton Circuit Squad family. Go on their website, hey, that's right. And so because all of these 3 organizations that I'm working with, they all connected. They're all community-based, and guess what? A lot of their service overlap. So my job, I become the conduit that connects all 3. Because they're all really serving the same folks, so so I serve as a conduit for these guys and really plug them into opportunities. Even with the reentry guys, I'm going to be not only plug them into the OWLS resources, but the Father Center resources.
Hey man, get them kids over to do a workshop on team building with the reentry guys.
That's
so they can
get,
start
connected,
and get, they can in a fun way,
absolutely,
because that's the thing, building, that teamwork.
That's right.
Being able to work on a team and communicate on a team.
That's right.
And, to accomplish whatever goal that's set out there. So, like you said, it all kind of works hand in hand.
Yes, sir.
But Dre, Mr. Thomas, I want to thank you for coming through, man.
Thanks for
I appreciate
having me,
it, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for all the work that you do in the community, man. I'm always watching you on the socials and all that stuff, and always supporting and loving it. And
yes, sir.
It's needed, man. It's needed work, and for you to have been doing it this long and sticking with it, everybody, like you said, it's a lot of different levels, and people do the work they do where they're at, but do it with the excellence and do it with the commitment that it requires.
Yes,
be LeBron in your role, whatever.
That's right.
Be
an agent of change.
Be an agent of change. Being in your role, man. And I thank you for that. I'm sure everybody who heard all this information is going to thank you for that.
Absolutely.
The community is still supporting you. I know you. I can't remember what award you got, but it's some mentorship award or something.
Through Stacy Heading through the Seeds the Seed program.
Yes.
I got one of the Drum Major awards, which was really, really appreciative, man. Stacy Heading, shout out to him. Through this work that he does in the community, he recognized me as a drum major, and I really respected that.
Yeah,
Appreciated it.
Come on, man. Come on, dude. I lived in the city, man.
Yes, sir.
I know for a long, long time, and
it's hard work, man. It's hard work, brother.
Because it's people are conditioned for poverty. People have accepted their circumstances.
Yep.
People don't not only accept it, they run towards it.
They run towards it. Yep. They gravitate to the negativity.
It's so disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been in the prisons. I've been in the group homes with the girls. I've been in McBoss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I migrated to youth because I can give them the excuse of not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with mom and dad, you know, coming down and just if you fought as hard for that $100 and some odd a month,
mm-hmm.
if you took that energy to get a job, you'd have one.
That's right. That's right.
The way they fight for those benefits,
yeah.
when they it's conditioning. When they get locked out,
mm-hmm.
and it's like, yo, if you took that same vigor and that same, you know, that fight,
that's right.
and applied it to something else, you know, a little more progressive.
And they have stories buried in that struggle. The story of redemption is waiting to be told, but they got to overcome it.
They got to overcome. And I offered, and I offer no shade, and I offer no, you know, condemnation or judgment in that because I know life.
That's right.
I know life, right. And I know how to change this and how hard it is to consistently fight them demons in your brain.
Absolutely.
You know, let alone the conditions you're living in.
That's
you know,
right.
I understand what that is from a person who making $10 million a year. The demons in your brain you fight.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I understand. You know, I know life. So I say that with all respect. You know, but as my pastor would say, 10 years gonna come. You're gonna be where you gonna be.
That's right.
Are you going to take that 10 years to get out your hole, or are you going to take that 10 years to keep complaining about your hole?
That's right. Absolutely. Because it's right. Because you're going to be.
You're going to be.
You're going to bring forth. What you bring forth will determine.
It's like, what are you going to do this? If you get 10 years, you're going to complain for 10, or you're going to build something for 10.
That's right. Absolutely.
So, you know, and both is hard.
It starts at the mind.
Both is hard. You choose your heart is what he said.
That's right.
Choose your heart.
That's right.
Which direction it's hard to stay where you at, and it's hard to get out.
And you know, it's funny you mention that because we always talk about vision. And I remember T.D. Jakes saying this, and it stuck with me. He said, you know, the thing about a visionary is you have a visionary, but then when you got it, then you come back and you realize you got to start where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And working towards that vision is the challenge. But I think with the right tools, the right support, it can happen. And you got a lot of examples that it can. And again, these are things that stories are made of.
Right.
But you know, you just got to get willing participants, willing to put it in. And I think our people have a sense of resilience already.
Mm-hmm.
We just got to tap into it.
Absolutely.
Tap into it and realize that you can do this. If you've been doing this, you can certainly do that.
Redirect it. Like, you don't even know how much of a genius you are.
Right,
I tell the kids all the time,
exactly.
man, you don't even know how.
Yes, our people are resilient.
Resilient and brilliant.
Yes.
Resilient, it's just not put in the right space to be seen and heard.
There you go.
And if it's put in the right place to be seen and heard, I found this out in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you in one area you may not feel good enough, but if you placed in the right environment, with the right nurturing, it's like, boom, how far can you go?
Absolutely.
You know, and then once you start believing in your own ability, you start believing in whatever higher power you believe in ability to get you through those things, you know, you'll start reaching for things beyond your grasp.
Absolutely, and I love the title of this, Iron Sharpens Iron.
Iron Sharpens, man.
Because it does. Iron sharpens, and I just want to leave this last analogy,
Go
man.
ahead.
It's like apple seed. I put that apple seed right here, Brad. What's gonna happen to that apple seed on this table?
Gonna dry up.
Yeah, it's gonna dry up. You know, because it's not in the right environment.
Right.
Right. And the sad part about it is, in that seed, it's not just a tree. In that seed is a forest. Trapped in that seed is a forest, the potential of a forest. But if nothing don't happen, that seed would just wither away. And that's what I see when I see young people struggling. I see adults struggling. I often wonder, I don't look at their situation, I look at what's trapped inside. What's the possibility of that individual?
That's a gift in itself.
Yes.
See, you know, having vision for others, having vision for yourself and others, that's a gift in itself.
Yes, sir. And that, I really live by that. I believe that. But we just got to get them in the right environment. I think with the right supports and the right resources, we can make folks rise above the things that traps them in.
Amen. Amen. We're here for that. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Iron Sharpens. We're here with Andre Thomas. And like I said, we're here to educate. We're here to support you. We love you. We hope you come back, get this game, man, and we'll help each other. Tag us in all our socials, man. Put the bottom thirds and all that. Tag us in all our socials. Leave comments, questions. We'll tackle those things on one of the next episodes, man. Let us know, some of the other, topics and ideas you want to hear about, you want to hear us talk about, and we'll make sure to make it happen, all right? Thank you for coming through. We out.
All right.